Hello and welcome. In this video I'm gonna show you the beginning of the process of how I drafted a pair of evening pajamas inspired by Vionette. They're all-in-one skirt and trousers. And recently I was feeling a little bit uninspired, so I thought, oh, let's do something fun just to distract me, and I went to my favorite Vionette book. What started out with just looking at a design, analyzing how it might work, turned into a full drafting session and a trial for a pair of trousers which are also a skirt. So at the front we've got a pair of really wide leg trousers, and then at the back we've got a really full skirt. And if I lift up the skirt you can see the trousers underneath. The great thing is they all sort of twist around your legs, and the whole thing in theory could be cut out of one piece of fabric. So this is a one piece trouser skirt evening ensemble, and Vionette combined it with a bodice, so it became a proper jumpsuit. You can of course do that as well. I'm going to concentrate on the trousers or the skirt because I think that's a bit more exciting. I've created a 3-part series for you. In this video I'm going to analyze the original pages in the book and work out how this would have been drafted, constructed. In the next video I'm going to actually show you the drafting process, and you can use any pair of straight-legged trousers for it. And in the last video I'm going to show you the order of construction, because that is quite interesting, and also what I would consider on the trial. Before we dive into the book, if you love the idea of looking at any image and then drafting your own version, designing the clothes you want to wear every day, did you know that you can do that with me in a really nice private community? It's my Design and Draft the Complete Pattern Cutting School, and you can find out a little bit more about how I teach and how it works in the description. I've put a link there for you. Now let's have a look at these Vionette evening pajamas in the book and analyze the images. The Vionette pajamas are from the fantastic Betty Kirk Madeleine Vionette book, which you need to keep an eye out on eBay and Amazon. It sometimes sort of goes down in price. That's when I got mine, and then it suddenly shoots up and it's unaffordable. So I think I waited 5 years to get this. Very special Christmas present. I think I got it for an acceptable, if slightly painful price, but sometimes it goes completely mad. So it's worth putting it onto your list or checking from time to time. But it's got all the pattern ideas. It isn't always fully up to scale, and of course you would still have to work out how to draft the bodice and stuff, and for some more complicated patterns this is only a starting point. You can't just blow it up unless you exactly figure and you know exactly like how much to blow it up for such. But it's a really good starting point, because you can basically see that this garment it's got empire lines, but that's a style line up here, but then the skirt trousers is literally a 3/4 circle skirt, and it's all cut out of one piece. So a straight of grain is like that, which means the back skirt is on the bias, and then it wraps around. I'm gonna draw it out because I'm trying to work out where's the front and I'm not quite sure. And I also wanted to show you this again. They say is a pajamas with halter neck and circular pant cut skirt, so like trouser skirt, which is a bit weird. The way she's standing, you can't actually tell it's a pair of trousers and skirts, but it must be basically the same like this, but there is an over layer. And the original was made from light blue, the bodice from light blue silk taffeta, so a more crisp silk, and then the trousers or pants in a black silk crepe, so 2 color as well, which is quite beautiful. And it's from Vionette's personal wardrobe, and they don't know where they are. They might not exist anymore because that is 90 years nearly. And they got these sort of special gussets here, which basically force open the fabric, and it causes like lovely ripples at the hem. And you can see how here it works a little bit. Let's draw it out. I'm going to just draw that diagram from the book to remind myself. So this is how it's going to look like. That's my front and that's my back. And that's of course like a bird's eye view from above. And I know the whole pattern is a 3/4, and this is my center back. And then my crotch is sort of at 90 degrees to that. Which is my inside leg, of course, the crotch. So let's draw it out. So the bodice is like this. I would love to know how to get in and out as well. That is not a dress, I think. I will look it up in a second to see where they actually say how to get in and out. I couldn't see it. And it's a very simple top, which I quite like. And then the back is basically really simple. And cut on the straight of grain as well. Like this. And then I think it has this like a side insert. Like that. Which I'm actually not sure. I think it might just be to balance the... It might just be to balance the gusset, but it's basically got a side insert like that. So that's my back, that's my front. And then of course it's got a center front seam, which then becomes the crotch. And what you basically have is 2 legs like that, and then you've got a gusset here, which just creates a bit of tension. And I'm drawing it quite narrow leg, but of course a really big leg. And then of course what you would see, so this is our trouser leg, and what you would see behind it is your skirt from the back, which is that. So this is coming through there. However, which we might now draw in some different colors. So this is how it looks from the inside. Then, so we know at the front we got the, but basically I'm going to do it in different colors. So this, the purple, is basically the outer layer, like that, which is basically from here, and which is on there, on the little tiny thing I've done here. What we've got here is we've got the crotch, the circle, the crotch, the circle. What you can actually see this is tricky, which is why I love Vionette. It's literally this. So this part is basically the front trouser leg. That's what we can see there. And then of course the back is this, which is like this, and that is yes. I think it's one of the styles. Once I start laying it out on paper, it will make more sense. But that's the whole back, which is visible. And then what's invisible here, and that's of course the inside of that is visible here. What happens then? You have this becoming the back crotch. So the only thing I'm not quite sure about it, how does it join onto here? Let me have a look. Oh, no, it literally it's like attached. So underneath here, you've got your trouser leg. Which then come round to the front. But then I think they literally, judging from that, they sort of end here, or maybe a little bit forward. Yes, they actually end at the center front again, so they wrap all the way around. Like this. So let's choose a really different color. So you basically got the leg like this, which is that part. And then it's also this part. And then, last color I promise, the last bit of a triangle literally goes all the way underneath here, and it's like a second layer. So it wraps all the way to here. So it's actually 2 layers at the back, and then this trouser leg here is actually 2 layers as well. So it's basically wearing a sort of multi-layered, swirly bias cut and straight cut trouser skirt. It's probably very fluid, very beautiful. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure I'd work a pair of pajamas. I imagine getting tangled up if you wore it as what we call pajamas now, so I wouldn't want to wear it to go to sleep, but I imagine for lounging around or like, you know, hot summer evenings, it's like a really glamorous evening dress basically, but with all the comfort of a pair of trousers. Before we start drafting it, let's look at the book again. Now you know hopefully a little bit more how it works. You can then sort of use it as your guide for your drafting. And to tell you the truth, the figuring out what I'm doing now, that is the main issue. Once you know how it's done, the drafting I think is actually really quick. But only thing, it's a massive pattern piece. So it is symmetrical. So what we normally do, of course, is we would use it as a fold line. However, the center back, our fold line, is on the bias. And I don't fold on the bias, especially not in a crepe. I think that's just asking for trouble. I know some people do it. There's lots of videos how it's a great shortcut. I would never do it because if you working with slippery fabric, folding on the bias is just going to distort it. There's ways you can sort of do tops where you, or dresses where you do a tube, but this is a flat pattern, so that won't work. And you can also see it's pieced here and it's pieced here, so it's actually made out of several pieces of fabric, which are pieced, which basically stitch together on the straight of grain, and you would stitch the lengths together and then lay the pattern piece out. And you would have to do that if you have a massive floor table. You could do it on the table. Realistically, I would have to do it on my kitchen floor, which is the only floor which is big enough to actually lay that out, I would imagine, because this is like your inseam. So I'm just going to go roughly with my, so my inseam on this one is on the full scale 80 centimeters. So that would be 80 centimeters. And then of course, depending on how high you want it, it's slightly different. But in this case, my full scale would be basically 110 centimeters, which would mean 110, 110, and probably again another 60, 70. You're hitting 3 meters nearly. So that pattern piece is going to be 3 meters. Massive pattern piece. So cutting out is going to be a pain, and drafting is going to be a pain, but the drafting principle is actually quite straightforward. So I'm going to show it to you, and you could actually draft half of it on paper and then stick the other half on. So you only draft out half, which is what I'm going to do. I hope you enjoyed this. I would love you, of course, to join me and draft it together in the next video. And if you enjoyed this video, do leave me a thumbs up or a comment and let me know what you think. Thank you for watching.